A couple weeks ago, Jeff Zucker, who used to be the president over at CNN, stepped down and resigned because he basically was having a relationship with one of his colleagues at the job while not informing HR about their relationship. So basically he violated the rules. And the colleague that he was having a relationship with name was Allison Gollust. So if you see this picture right here, this is Allison right here. And I was talking about in that video that while Jeff Zucker, he resigned because he broke the policy, I said Allison was no saint in it at either, and that she needed to step down too because she went right along with it. She didn't go to HR and tell them about their relationship, just like he didn't. So they were both compliant in their misdeeds. And I said then that she needs to resign as well, or they need to let her go. And what do you know? A couple weeks later, what do we hear in the news? That Allison Gollust resigned because of her relationship with her boss, her now former boss, Jeff Zucker, basically was violating the policy. So I'm going to go ahead and read this article and see what else they're talking about. Nearly 2 weeks after CNN President Jeff Zucker was forced out of his position, his former lieutenant Allison Gollust has also resigned from the company. In a memo to staffers Tuesday evening, WarnerMedia CEO Jason Kilar said Gollust resigned after an investigation into issues associated with former CNN anchor Chris Cuomo and his brother Andrew, the former New York governor. Based on interviews of more than 40 individuals and a review of over 100,000 texts and emails, the investigation found violation of company policies, including CNN's new standard and practices by Jeff Zucker, Allison Gollust, and Chris Cuomo. Kilar said in the memo. So she was tied up in that too. Not only was she breaking policy, messing around with her boss, and not telling HR what was going on, but she was also had her hands in with the whole Cuomo situation. So like I told you, Allison was no saint at all. She was just as much involved as the other two. We have the highest standard of journalistic integrity at CNN, and those rules must apply to everyone equally, Kilar added. Given the information provided to me in the investigation, I strongly believe we have taken the right actions and the right decisions have been made. Gollust released this comment addressing her exit Tuesday night. WarnerMedia's statement tonight is an attempt to retaliate against me and change the media narrative in the wake of their disastrous handling of the last 2 weeks, she said. It is deeply disappointing that after spending the past 9 years defending and upholding CNN's highest standards of journalistic integrity, I would be treated the way that as I leave. But I do so with my head held high, knowing that I gave my heart and soul to working with the finest journalists in the world. So now she's trying to make it seem like she's the victim in all of this when she knows clear and well that she, like I said, had just as much input in this situation as Jeff Zucker and Chris Cuomo. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's more people involved beyond just these three. A representative for Zucker did not immediately comment. Cuomo declined to comment. WarnerMedia is girding for a potential lawsuit by Cuomo, who was fired from his 9 p.m. time slot in December in multiple controversies. As CNN Business first reported on December 5th, CNN retained third-party law firm Kravitz to assess Chris Cuomo's conduct vis-a-vis his brother's sexual harassment scandal. The law firm's initial review determined that CNN had grounds to terminate Cuomo, and that's what Zucker did on December 4th. Putting an extraordinary chain of events into motion, Cuomo hired a high-profile Hollywood litigator and told friends that he would seek the millions of dollars that remained on his contract. The network under Zucker refused to pay. The Kravitz review continued, and as CNN previously reported, numerous staffers throughout the organization were interviewed. What had started with a focus on Mr. Cuomo's behavior was morphing into a broader look at Mr. Zucker's handling of the anchor and his interaction with the Cuomos, a New York Times investigation said on Tuesday. Among other things, the lawyers asked CNN employees about how Mr. Zucker had handled Mr. Cuomo's suspension and firing, what he knew about Chris Cuomo's interactions with his brother, and whether any employees were aware of communications between Mr. Zucker and Andrew Cuomo. The Kravitz lawyers also asked about the relationship between Zucker and Gollust. Zucker confirmed the relationship, but because he did not disclose it at the time it began, he was in violation of company standards. When he exited on February 2nd, he admitted as such. I was required to disclose it when it began, but I didn't, and I was wrong. Gollust said in a statement that the relationship changed during WooVid, and I regret that we didn't disclose it at the right time. My thing is this: I don't think they regret not even doing it, because if they did, they would have did it. They had no intention of telling the proper people that they were in a relationship. They were going to keep this going, and if they did not get caught up with what's going on, they would have kept it a secret. My thing is, why were they keeping it a secret? I think that's the bigger question here. But like I said in the video about Jeff Zucker, and I think they said so in the article, it could have been some favoritism there that was shown her way. And they knew, people going to talk. So, and probably run the risk that one of them would be let go from their position, because it could have been a conflict of interest. I'm almost certain it probably would have been. I wouldn't be surprised if he was paying her a little extra under the table. I had alluded to that in the video that I did about him. And it probably, if it hasn't come out now, that's what happened. It will probably come out somewhere down the line in the near future. Gollust indicated that she would continue working at CNN as the head of marketing and communications, and she was seen at the company's New York office last week, but she has now resigned too, according to Kalar, and the Kravitz probe is now complete. Now the outstanding questions are about Cuomo. Will he sue? Will there be a settlement? Will there be some other outcome? Cuomo spokesman Stephen Goldberg said Tuesday night that it is clear that this was never about an undisclosed relationship. As Mr. Cuomo has stated previously, Mr. Zucker and Ms. Gollust were not only entirely aware, but fully supportive of what he was doing to help his brother. The still open question is when WarnerMedia is going to release the results of its investigation and explain its supposed basis for terminating Mr. Cuomo. In a comment to the Times, Zucker's spokesman Risa Heller pushed back on the entirely aware claim. Jeff was never aware of the full extent of what Chris Cuomo was doing for his brother, which is why Chris was fired. So it's a boiling pot of ish going on over at CNN with this whole situation right here. And here I am thinking that it's just because of the relationship that Jeff Zucker was having with her and she was having with him discriminately. Well, not discriminately, but discreetly and in secret and in private, and not telling the people that needed to be told. But it's like it's extended even further than that. CNN got a lot of stuff on their hands, but like I said in the previous video, and I said it here and I'll say it again, she was no angel. As far as the relationship with her and Jeff Zucker goes, I'm glad that they decided to have her resign, because I said it 2 weeks ago that she needed to be let go too. If he was going to be let go for that misconduct, so did she. She is a consenting adult, and she could have said something, but she, like he, chose not to. And I wonder if they both told each other that they would not tell anybody. So they just, in my opinion, were banking that they weren't going to get caught. But that whole Chris Cuomo thing, that with the Cuomos, and not just Chris Cuomo but his brother, that literally opened up a huge can of worms, and out of that can fell their secret relationship. And I have a feeling that the can is still tipped over with the lid popped off, and there's still more worms falling out of it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you are new. Make sure you hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video or go live.